every other time. There we go. Okay. I haven't had a chance to look at the document yet this morning myself. Given that we're getting towards the end here, how do we want to approach kind of the format of these last definitions?
I had a suggestion that I added to the doc about how we could focus on this. I did see Justin's comment as well. So, Justin, thanks for marking those comments in red. That made it a little bit easier to see. I think how we could focus our time is maybe just going through each of the outstanding comments and just resolving them, so that the definitions are up to date and whatever terms are correct, so that we can, be in alignment that way.
Okay. That works for me. Do you think, just thinking through async, if not everybody's here, so we'll discuss them as best as we can, but if we have some key players that have insights, we can still have an async round after this and make sure we get everybody's opinion.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, let's start at the top, I guess. Dashboard, the big one.
Yeah, so I was talking to a team member about this, and he threw out a small little differentiator that I thought might be interesting. The dashboard summarize data and landing pages are task focused. So I was wondering if we wanted to maybe add to the dashboard and then the landing page definitions.
How would it be task focused? Can you explain what that means?
I have to wake up.
Yeah.
At the time, it made sense. How did I reconcile it?
Like it gives you actions to do when you land on that landing page. It's like kind of a to-do list or things that you've been doing.
Yeah, like the landing page for the issues, I think is, you have a reason that you're,
yes.
Is that set right in the dashboard?
So
data.
I pulled landing pages out down to the very bottom, like line 47, because I figured after our last discussion that a lot of those app landing pages, like where you actually are doing things in GitLab, would be more like not a dashboard. I think we had like a few weeks of conversation.
Focus bit to that one.
Oh, okay, I see it here on E2.
Yes, no, E47 for landing page.
Ah, okay. So yeah, it also says it says summarizes data, landing pages. Oh, you're saying landing pages are task focused.
Yeah, we're dashboards.
So you're making a differentiator. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
In his mind, that was how he differentiated. And I'm like, oh, I can kind of see that. I mean, I had to think about it like,
okay,
what does task focused mean?
Yeah. It seems like we're using the word tasks in GitLab, it would be like issues, MRs, taking type objects.
Yeah, I think he meant task in terms of like, if you're doing a usability study, you give the user a task, like how do this.
Yes. And we do now have a task object in GitLab, so that could be kind of confusing language, but like maybe there's like key workflows or like action-oriented, goal-oriented flows to do with the app you're in.
Yeah. Whereas a dashboard, you go there and you stare at it and you see if there's anything happening.
Yeah. You're looking for differences.
Yeah.
So one is action orientated and one is analysis focused.
That's good. I love that.
So it has multiple panels.
And it's
allowing
analysis focused.
Yeah, you just comment adding, yeah. Work.
Yeah, and for the line 47, it says task focus. We said action focused instead.
Or action oriented.
Action oriented, analysis oriented, and action oriented. Okay. I feel like that was an aha moment for me.
Yeah, I think that was pretty good.
Don't peak so early in your day, Kristen.
No, we're at the first minute 6.
How do we mark this for the async folks? I was just going to remove the comment, which maybe I probably shouldn't have, I guess.
I mean, looking at it, we've got 5 in agreement. I'd say that's perfectly okay. There are some where we've got far less. So in some ways, I would say we should focus the async on those which are, say, like 3 or less in agreement, maybe.
Define that. So the app landing page one doesn't have anyone in agreement. So we could maybe keep that one pink.
After my aha moment, I'm putting my name on there now. But that was my big question of like, how do we define landing pages in this world too, so that everything else makes sense?
I really think that's the biggest question that people are hoping to get out of this.
Yeah.
What's the difference between dashboard and landing page?
Yeah. And user landing pages that have actions or to-dos or things you take action on, that makes a lot of sense to me. My brain understands it. You go move through the app through these.
Yeah.
I feel like the general description we have in here is okay, but when we come to the documentation part, we're going to need a more prosy way of saying pretty much exactly the same thing, and that's where people are going to be most interested. So I think what we've got now is okay.
Maybe we can get a tech writer involved, someone that writes for a living.
Oh yeah, we're going to want someone to double check our spelling and make sense.
For sure. If I don't see a red underline, then I'm good. The next one is an area. I marked that as red because there's just nothing there. I wasn't sure. There's another one below too that says versioning area.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if that's built into what everyone's working on, but usually like it's kind of like the change log area or some way to see history on changes to either the query or the display of it. But maybe that's not a requirement.
I don't think it's required.
Yeah, because then I would ask, how is that going to be different from, an MR?
Does Grafana have that? Like if you go and make a bunch of changes, does it have a history that spits out kind of like Google Docs does, where you see who changed what? Sometimes if someone changes a query in Sisense, like we had a bug in one of ours that boosted all of our numbers, just changing it from a like to a like with a percent on the end got us millions more, but like that history wasn't retained. The fact that happened wasn't retained. Maybe we don't need it, but if no one else is doing it.
I've seen it in other dashboarding tools I've used in the past. I can't recall a specific one, but I have seen it. Change history, someone's wrote, makes more sense in my head. And sort of writes its own description.
So if you were, you'd promote the word change history to the actual term?
I would vote for change history.
Yeah.
Okay. The description is just like
or version history, if you'd prefer.
Yeah, area is kind of weird. Let's leave change history for now and then see how much buy-in we get. I'll change it down on line 23 too.
take a stab at
So that might be one we're
description.
thinking too far ahead, that we may not need this, but let's leave it in until we get down to the end.
What do you think of that description?
Yeah.
Would it list the historical changes? Does it also need to be able to bring those back?
Well, that was an interesting point, because you don't necessarily mention available actions for every item, but sometimes I think we did. So I was wondering if you don't find things out like that, the ability to undo. Or maybe we just do that in the, I think there's an action section or a menu section or something. Actions.
Hey, Justin, your audio is getting a little muted or muffled from time to time.
Stupid headphones.
So I was saying that we don't always list out all the actions that you could do for a certain item, but then we do have a list of actions. So maybe we could add it there.
That makes sense.
Or do we put it in descriptions for each thing? I don't know. I mean, we could say like, and the ability to undo or revert. I can go either way. But we'd be inconsistent for each of the descriptions. So we need to do a scrub.
Yeah, if we have the ability to roll back or something, maybe that would be included in that description, but I think some of these require more UXR, more definition, design, just how it would behave in the GitLab world once it's built, once someone decides to put change history into the view or into the dashboard.
I guess whether it's reverted or not would depend on the use case. There may be instances where it makes no sense or it's not viable to roll back, but you still want that audited history all the same. I mean, it could just even be a case that it gets sent as an audit event to the audit events table or external streamed source or whatever we use these days.
Well, I put something in there, but happy to take it out. Can be reverted back to any point of past change. I mean, that I don't know. Yeah. It is getting a little prescriptive. I don't know if we want to do that.
You could say maybe could have the option to revert.
Okay, yeah.
Because there are some times where your data model changes or things completely shift and there's no way to actually revert back because the world is now changed.
If able.
I think that's
descriptive,
good.
But I'm okay with that.
All right. So no one's agreed to this one either, so I'll keep that one pink.
Oh, I'll put my name in there.
Or no
I'm still
majority anyway.
flip-flopping between version history or change history. I haven't decided yet.
It was change history. Next one is date range.
So I have added to this. There was a point around it not noting that you could have a bespoke or a custom range of dates, which is a valid concern, and actually something that Jan has just implemented, not yet merged, for product analytics, which you may have, if you feel like having a look, there's a little GIF he made for a UX bug, which shows exactly what it does, whereby you can have it has a drop down of last 7, 14, last 30, and then custom range, and then it opens up a from to fields, which pretty much visually describes exactly what what we're looking for here in some ways, having that option of a relative or bespoke date range. So if everyone's happy with or a custom range appended to the end of this, as I've done, then this could be closed off.
Yes. My concern was just that it was going to always be relative. And sometimes I have to look at the previous year or something. So that's perfect from my standpoint.
Yeah, works for me. Resolved. Yes, nice. Accordion. So this one I just had a question because what do we mean by accordion? Because there are accordion controls that are containers that are expandable and collapsible. Then there are other versions of it where if you have multiples stacked, you can only have one open at a time. So I was just asking what we're getting at.
Right, because it could be a collapsible element. Accordions in their nature close everything else, right? When you open them.
I've cheated and
people are
broken that rule.
Yeah.
If I needed to.
I hate that myself because it feels like everything's going away. But if maybe expand collapse components or something else to have more flexibility.
I guess the key thing here is type of menu, isn't it? That's not a type of menu.
Yeah, and then that was my other point. Are we talking about a menu that you pop open, or is this a container that can be hidden or shown? Mm-hmm. What do we call this in pajamas? I mean, we have this object already. I didn't look. I probably should have.
Components. There is an accordion component.
Yeah.
An accordion is used to show and hide content.
Okay.
All right.
It doesn't auto close. It doesn't seem to auto close to our accordion.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Our example it's a text-based bullet one versus actually I don't know if I've seen this in the app. Maybe just this example is on text bullets, or in my head I was thinking it had like Chrome, like a bar.
Yeah, in settings, that's exactly what we have pretty much.
But we do have the other one too that you're talking about, Kristen, where it's a bar and then you've got the chevron on the right side.
Yeah, that's what was.
We also have it where there's a button that says expand and collapse, like on configuration settings pages. I don't know what that's called, but
still an accordion, just styled differently.
Yeah, I think what was throwing me off was the type of menu. So if we just do what Pajamas says, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I think the goal of this section is that we could have flexibility in the layout of the whole dashboard. So whatever everyone thinks we would need, like the core building blocks of kind of organizing it.
Something like that. Wait, hang on. The same as it does in Google Docs.
Justin, can you explain the word menu? Because I was looking at it on that line. Was the menu in the description?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Says
Weird.
type of menu that displays a list of headers.
Yeah, weird.
So
I probably wrote that. Sorry. Freeform and.
Oh, geez, I just copied the same thing.
Sorry.
There you go. So does that work? Exactly what Pajama says.
I guess we could just simplify it to say, like, use to show and hide content.
Oh yeah, because we already say it's an accordion. Yeah, that works for me.
We didn't define the next one either, grid layout, but everybody's okay with it. We're all just, we know we need it, but we should have a definition.
I feel like we did at one point.
There is one further down that talks about XY coordinates, and so grid attributes sort of.
Ah, yes. Maybe those two should be grouped. I'm going to drag that up under grid layout, just so we have them together. Because yeah, we may need both, or just maybe even one.
I was wondering if we wanted to add any information like snapping to grid or anything like that.
Mm. Maybe a grid layout is the vertical and horizontal dimensions or constraints of an area and allows snapping or something.
I like the constraints of an area part. Would we ever want or allow users to not snap to the grid so we have a disorganized view? I mean, I'm thinking mind space, right?
Yeah.
Do we want to allow people to get?
I mean, maybe we have parts of the grid that are predefined, like maybe there's a very small 6-column row that's available and you could snap small little things into it. And then maybe it's just defined on the number of columns or something, but we always have snapping.
Yeah.
So it doesn't get too nuts.
It works for me. I'd rather do the snapping, but I was just curious if anyone else was open to letting the free for all happen.
I like snapping too, but I feel like start with more constraints and less control for users and then gradually add and see it.
Me.
Okay, so we've got layout and grid attributes, and then we get into rows, columns. Do those need to, are those attached to the grid? Should it say grid rows and columns? Are they the same?
Yes. Yes.
But you could also span multiple rows, multiple columns to make a row or to make a row or column in the grid. That's really hard to talk about.
Well,
like
you have a fixed number of rows and columns or width and height of a row or a column, but a panel could span multiple of those. If that makes sense. That's what defines the layout of the grid. It's how many columns and rows you have and what size those are.
I'm having PTSD call span flashbacks to the early 2000s.
Yeah, right.
That is pretty much it. Yeah,
That's like designing in Dreamweaver.
So if we make the far left panel span 3 row heights, and then we put another panel next to it and we only want to do 2 row heights, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
From a pragmatic point of view, the whole point is to allow that kind of masonry style brick layout where you can have different sized panels, and then they flow into each other. So if you've got one which spans 3 rows in height, and then you've got a panel, 2 panels which only span 1.5 rows, then you can have them stack one on top of each other next to the bigger panel, if that makes sense, and have it all flow nicely. So that's the whole concept behind the whole CSS grid layout structures. That would be the definition of the dashboards.
Okay. I had a suggestion to throw a line in there that says that helps maintain a tidy and organized view, but I don't know if we need to say that now that I'm looking at it.
That helps maintain whatever the heck you want.
Right. Yeah.
An overwhelming view. I'm gonna add grid just to the front of that. I just want them to kind of be together in their own world, but that sort of couples those 3 concepts together. And we did pull the grid attributes up. I realize I pulled that up out of config. So maybe this isn't the right place for it. Maybe the attributes actually are on that panel config. That the panel knows it's on the grid, right? So maybe it shouldn't be up there.
Yeah, they configure the coordinates of the panel and the width and height of like how many rows or columns that panel's meant to sit on or cover would be on the panel itself, not on the grid. The grid is just the underlying structure.
Yes. So I'm going to move that down just below the panel definition in the data source.
Well, if you put it under config, then that implies that the user can change the size of the cells, right? And that's what we want, I'm guessing.
Yes. Yeah, whatever drag and dropping is going on is like all stored in its own config, the panel's config. Okay.
The next one is panel widget. I removed the word optionally because we already said through options. So I just wanted to point that out and make sure everyone was cool with that.
Looks good to me.
Menu for config. So there was a conversation. So Matei wasn't sure what CRUD meant. We defined it, but now I see it's removed. Revised dimension dashboards, menu for config text.
Yeah, so this is actually just a hangover. I think we could probably just close this out unless anyone has any more concerns or questions they want around this.
The actions below, like duplicate, remove, delete, lock, feel like those would be coming off that menu, but maybe not. Like all of these actions have to live somewhere.
Yeah.
But the menu for config maybe is just around editing title and description and some of the main stuff versus taking those other actions. It is kind of confusing because CRUD was mentioned up there though, which is kind of the same as these cloning or deleting.
So maybe it should say able to open and modify panel settings and use panel actions. Use is a weird word. Don't know what else to say.
Utilize.
Reveal panel options or actions.
Does that work?
And there could be some where we lock it down, right? Like we don't want user editing. It's an app like dashboard potentially where we don't want people messing around. So the exposure of the menu for config might be optional.
Which is optionally able to, able to open and modify, something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not required. It's not as part of the required
true.
Features.
Right, we don't have the star, so it's fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. For me. Change history, we've dealt with it above, so we can get rid of that. Panel filter, what did I say? I think should essentially be the same wording we used for the dashboard filters, but then specify that it's for the panel, such as a selection of one or more ways to reduce the data shown to meet a specific set of criteria of a panel. I think I was just thinking we should be consistent in our phrasing.
Sure.
Yep. On board with that one.
I'll keep that one pink since there weren't a lot of agreements, unless, well, we're getting all the agreements now. Chart. Chart excludes text content like single stats, arguably tables.
That might have been an earlier comment when we just had visual or chart instead of visualization. Oh, sorry. Ihan, go ahead.
I'm assuming, Jan, it's argument against the use of charts and alternative.
Rob, can you rephrase that? Sorry.
Your comment on visualizations, the alternative of chart, where you've written chart excludes text content like single stats, arguably tables. I'm assuming that's just you stating and why that alternative wouldn't make sense.
Correct.
So if we got rid of that alternative, I think we're all set on visualization now. We could resolve that comment.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and we have it actually below too, visualization again.
Yeah, and that's my comment was that was confusing me. Like, I don't know why are there two and what are we getting at? Like that one, the top one that we just talked about is under config, and then the other one's content type. So I'm having difficulty reconciling this listing of visualization with the above one that then also specifies charts. So now that chart's gone, so maybe I'm okay with it. What is the section communicating that's different from the above?
I think I could probably explain this one. So the config visualization refers to picking what visualization to show on a panel.
It's picking the type,
so we could,
and then we list the types so we know what we, okay.
And then the content type is the fact that we have a content of type visualization. So maybe we should copy the configs description, or no, actually it is the same, but maybe revise this config to say selecting or being able to select a one visualization per panel. I don't know.
Yeah, select a visualization type, such as table, chart, da 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 da.
Yeah, I like that.
English is hard.
Especially at 7:30. So we want to add that to the configs visualization definition, right?
Yeah, but I think Kristen's writing it now.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm not, but I will.
Sorry. You were highlighted. Otherwise, I would have written it.
Oh, okay. Oh, I should have got out of the cell.
I see the gray. When it turns to gray, that means someone's editing it, I think.
I'm out. Line 27's up for grabs.
Now I've completely forgotten what I was going to write.
You were listing out the panel type as options. I don't remember how you phrased it either, but
pick a type.
Feel free to reword if required.
Did you want to add like a such as and then list out the panel types? Or is that paying
I'm not
ourselves to
sure
the
if-
corner if we add more?
Yeah, just because you can be quite generic, like chart or table, or really specific, like bar and scatter. And
Okay.
I like
It
table
could
being
also-
the default because everyone knows that.
Oh, it might not be, because it could be any kind of component, I guess. Oh, I don't know.
Sometimes
it just
you
has to
don't
be a
know
visual
what you want.
representation of the data. I never know what I want.
Yeah.
It's part of the problem.
Yeah. In Sisense, I use their tabular view to look at the data before I get it into a chart. And then I make the call. But okay, we could leave it generic for now and add specificity later if it's not clear to people what that means.
I feel like this is a clear example where we could link to further pajama documentation and different types of visualizations that we have once we start doing the documentation.
Mhm.
That works for me. All right, the next one is line 34, text header section line. My question was, what does a complex view object mean?
I don't know. Did I write that?
I think if we don't
Could
know,
it
we
be
could
Markdown
take
or
it off.
HTML?
I think it probably referring to that you could rather than text, you could have something more interactive than that, like what we've like a audible list, the do structure, link of issues, links of merge requests. Well, it could be a lot more complicated. It could be an actual component rather than static data, static content, I guess is what it's trying to say, but I don't know how to reword that into make it obvious.
If I remember correctly, we were talking about this being text or something like an HR tag to help with formatting so that you can have like lines. Can't remember the custom components because I'm wondering how that would fit into text.
Yeah, it's like that would make sense up in the organizational elements of the dashboard too, not necessarily on the panel content, but
I guess that's covered, the complex view object is covered by the next item, a GitLab list table board.
which I think should move down to here, down to line 48, kind of with the other app action oriented stuff. Unless someone feels that should be in the content types.
I guess it's covering as the scenario where you might have something that isn't a graph or chart, that isn't a text item. It's something more interactive and defined like that than that.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering, do we even want to go there or just keep this separation for right now? Because if you set your data source to GitLab issues and a query, you could still render it as a table or a chart or whatever. And we could add list views or board views eventually as a content type, but I don't know that they're, or as a visualization type. I don't know that they should be at this level of definition though.
I'm fine with that.
Unless it's trying to say, yeah, like you were saying, custom code, like a hard-coded widget that's interactive, that makes every query pull out all security issues from whatever the query is or something like that. I don't know.
From a semantic point of view, that would still, I guess, be a type of visualization, just a very bespoke kind.
Yeah.
Even if it was an iframe to another website like SciSense, like you decided to embed a SciSense graph into your dashboard, it would still be a type of visualization because you're representing content. So I think removing that line and removing complex view object from text works for me.
Yeah. I'm going to just drag it down and get it out of there. Yeah, I don't know if someone was also saying maybe they wanted to explain the panel, but put some text at the top just to explain it.
That's covered by description though.
Yeah. Let's just maybe just delete line 34.
No, I think text is a valid type of visualization because it's not representing data, it's representing static content, I guess. So I guess it could be a type of visualization. Be a very weird, I don't know. I'm happy to do what everyone else thinks.
Well, I've seen boards that just have single data points, like it's a count, or panels, I should say, where it just has a title and then it says 50. So in that regard, does that align with this?
You're saying when it's just rendering one number big?
Yeah.
I think the title and description could still be turned on above the number if you wanted to. So you could have up there, you could say like number of bugs closed in the last 30 days could be the title.
Right.
But it's just, do we want an additional piece of text that could float in the panel or something? Or I think we'd also have to decide, does it show above the visualization, below it? What is its placement? Or is it like a hover? I think it feels redundant, but I can't remember the use case for it.
Do we want to add a comment and ask, mark it as pink and ask people to remind us?
Yeah. I'm actually going to take my approval off it.
Yeah. Me too.
Maybe Dennis or someone had an idea for that. It's got space around it. It wasn't in the content type or the actions. So maybe it's kind of just on its own.
If it's quite contentious, it's still, text can still be covered by visualizations. We're just being more prescriptive. So if it's contentious, then we can just remove it. We're not denying the ability to have text by doing so. It's just not being as prescriptive in our descriptions.
So do we want to remove it, or do we want to ask everyone else if they remember why we put it?
Let's ask, and then let's remove swiftly, like tomorrow or the next day if we don't hear back.
Okay.
I say let's remove it and ask for forgiveness later.
Okay.
I was going to say, or we could remove it and see if anyone remembers, right? Hey, where'd that text line go?
Sure. It doesn't fit with the framework we're talking about, so I'm game too if we want to just kill it.
All right, let's kill it.
That's fine.
It'll be in the history, the version history.
Someone will still take a text type visualization. It's fine.
The next one is share embed. My comment for the description was, does this include the entire dashboard or just panels? I recall that question coming up in observability.
In Sisense, it's just panels that you do that on, but yeah, what else? What are the other modalities for that?
So when they were talking about it, it was because they were building out the ability to put something inside of an issue comment. And I think they said you technically could do an entire dashboard. But I also don't know why you'd want to do that.
At that point, you would just link or give permission
Yeah.
for someone to view that dashboard.
Trying to put a dashboard and a comment.
Or a description.
Embedded.
I mean, it could go there too.
Yeah, there's a bit more or horizontal width there, but still.
Usability just wouldn't work. So I can see the argument for why someone might want to embed the entire thing, but at the very least, so I think the confusion here is you've got share/embed, which can technically be two different things. You can share a dashboard with or a panel with someone, and then on top of that, you could also embed in line with other content. So I would argue that for share, yes, we should definitely be able to share dashboards and panels. For embeds, it really only makes sense to be able to share the panel itself, because you're just not going to have the real test space to be able to share embed a whole dashboard, are you, realistically?
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, so the sharing action is somehow getting the link to the actual thing to give someone in a comment or whatever else. And then the embed, yeah. Both of them require the unique ID, maybe the same copy link, the same URL to do an embed and to do a share, but.
Well, I added differentiator, so the share, oh, whoops, I went the wrong way. The embed is only panels.
And the share could be either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
I would maybe argue that it's with embed, it's not the ability to share, but the ability to insert panels into different, I want to say mediums, but maybe media or different sources. I don't know.
Markdown. Yeah. It would be so cool if we had an unfurl too, like just like on hover and you got like a little preview of the panel. Oh.
If you go into the preview view, I wonder if observability built that in, that it would actually show it. I don't know.
That would require some good caching for performance and stuff, because you'd literally be taking a snapshot of that data or like a screenshot of what it looked like.
Waiting to see what Rob's changing.
Sorry, I just removed the various objects and replaced with dashboards and panels to be specific, rather than having it at the end. And the first one I changed to say insert panels.
Works for me.
Yeah.
10 more minutes. Snapshot of data. So this was a conversation between Rob and Kristen.
Yeah. So maybe this isn't needed, but if we don't have like a charting architecture that supports it, sometimes you can snapshot data and then compare them.
Yeah, I read this to be so on observability, when you embed something, it has a shelf life because the chart or the dashboard data has a shelf life. So I was thinking that the snapshot it's more like a static still as opposed to a live object that you've embedded that technically lives until the data's gotten too stale.
Yeah, if we want to align to how it is in Grafana. So we could have a bunch of embeds in GitLab, and then they just kind of like have like a end of life where they just get some kind of visual treatment and they just look like a dark gray box or something and they're dead. And it's like, oh, go look at the real dashboard if you really want to see this.
I guess the end of life refers to, say, if you're referencing a data point in that data and that data has changed over time, you might not have the same data point that you made a reference to, either as distinct or even existing in that embed. So having the snapshot would allow you to know for certain that what you're referencing still exists. There is no, as far as I'm aware, there is no product in GitLab that currently supports this feature, but it is available in lots of different dashboarding tools. So I'm not against having it there.
Well, what I do is I take a screenshot, right, and then paste the image in.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
4-person snapshot.
Yeah, pretty much. But then if we don't technically have the action anywhere else, do we need
Maybe
it?
we should get rid of it.
I
Let's
think
get rid of it.
you can still define it, we just can't implement it. Because data storage alone will be very annoying and pricey.
Yeah.
Just storing random people's snapshots for eternity.
Well, I mean, to me, the implementation would still be a screenshot, except I don't have to figure out how to do that on a Mac, keyboard shortcut.
Well, that's what the download/export could do, I guess. We've currently described as downloaded data as CSV file, static image of a chart being shown, or static PDF of chart dashboard. So that would do the same thing, I guess.
You could put that on a recurring weekly, daily basis too, and get snapshots, like basically get version history at some point. And there are snapshotting libraries. I've seen them used for design system or like comparing UIs and things that can like regularly take pictures of like snapshots lined up at a certain equal width and height of browser and things like that.
So if you put a snapshot in a description of an issue, you could define it to update or something.
Oh, you're saying like a live update.
Well, I thought that's what you were describing. Like you can.
Oh.
But then if that's the case,
I'm
you
just
could just do a embed.
Yeah, I think if let's say the underlying architecture was taking like a weekly snapshot in some folder and those images were available to me, I could grab one and be like, here's what it was on Friday, even though we've moved on.
Functionally, I don't foresee GitLab ever doing that just from a cost point of view, having that kind of automated process. I can see someone writing a Python script to scrape that kind of information out and just click that link, trigger a download and download that image and store it off GitLab. But I can see us doing it as a functional point of view, perspective.
It would have to be a paid add-on and something like rigorous.
Yeah, I think I'd want to explore the use case need before committing to it personally.
Yeah.
Okay, so does that mean that we are going to get rid of the snapshot of data, or do we want to just keep it to say that we know about that it exists as a thing?
I feel like
If we keep
we
it,
know
we
that
need
it
to define it better.
exists. But yeah, now that I look at the downloading, like I feel like you could do daily snapshotting with static images too. If you ever wanted to automate that as a feature.
Okay. Let's delete it then, because we can always add later on if we have a product need.
Yeah, we could add cron jobs on top of that other one.
So the alert when X, my question was, is this at the panel level?
Oh, and at the action level?
It would be at the data level, irrespective of panel.
But each panel can have its own data.
Yeah, I don't know. I can imagine creating alerts from data sources. I guess Grafana allows you to set up conditionals, doesn't it? So on a panel, you can have it change color or send out alerts based upon whether a data exceeds or meets a certain criterion. So that makes sense. It would be on the panel level then.
And I'm fine with it being both. I only asked because I think we should add some specificity.
If it was on both, then the alert wouldn't be inside the dashboard. It would be a separate entity that ties into the same data source. So let's make it panel specific, I guess.
The dashboard could somehow know about alerts within itself too. If it's specific, there's like 2 panels that have an alert on it. Maybe at the top of the dashboard, do like 2 alerts present or something. It could be kind of like a roll-up
functionally
function.
doable. That's functionally doable. But the action itself would be on the panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, define at the panel, reveal or alert at the dashboard level.
That work?
I'm going to remove that line 45 too, because it's a dupe. We already have it in line 44.
There it looks like the final thing is a highlighted alternative of export, but no comment. I should probably say that in product analytics, we're terming like getting the data out. We are saying export, not download. So there is I don't know what observability's terminology is for that kind of functionality.
And on that note, I have to jump. Good work.
Yeah, we're done. So thanks everybody.
Thanks, y'all.
Nice work today. See ya.